Hello friends, today we are going to discuss attachment of femur. Here we have right sided femur. Femur has three parts: upper end, shaft and lower end. Upper end consists of head, neck, greater trochanter and lesser trochanter which lies posteromedially. Anteriorly, in between greater and lesser trochanter, we have intertrochanteric line, while posteriorly, in between greater and lesser trochanter, we have intertrochanteric crest. Now, we are going to discuss attachment over the upper end. In the upper end, over the head of femur, we have fovea centralis. This is the fovea centralis, over which there will be attachment of ligamentum teres femoris. Other end of the ligament attached over the transverse acetabular ligament. It's a triangular in shape. Now coming to the attachment over the intertrochanteric line. This is the intertrochanteric line. It will give attachment to the capsular ligament of the hip joint. In the upper part of the intertrochanteric line, there will be attachment of the iliofemoral ligament. That is the upper band of the iliofemoral ligament which extends from the ilium to the femur. As we know, iliofemoral ligament is inverted Y-shaped ligament. It is the strongest ligament. Another name is ligament of Bigelow. The second limb of the iliofemoral ligament attached over the lower part of the intertrochanteric line. So that is how inverted Y shape is completed. Now another attachment over the intertrochanteric line. At the upper part, there will be attachment of the upper or highest fiber of the vastus lateralis muscle, while at the lower part, there will be attachment of the highest fiber of the vastus medialis muscle. Now coming to the attachment of the greater trochanter. Greater trochanter has anterior aspect, lateral aspect, posterior aspect and the medial aspect. It has an apex or tip. Over the tip or apex, there will be insertion of piriformis muscle, which is again a triangular shaped muscle which comes from the pelvic aspect of the sacrum. Now, over the anterior aspect of the greater trochanter, in the lower rough area, there will be insertion of gluteus minimus muscle, which is the muscle of gluteal region. Over the lateral aspect, there is an oblique line over which there will be attachment of the gluteus medius muscle. Remember, the name is gluteus medius, but it will insert over the lateral aspect of the greater trochanter. Behind the oblique line, there will be a bursa for gluteus maximus muscle. Now, coming to the medial aspect of the greater trochanter. Over the medial aspect, just beneath the tip, there is a rough area which will give insertion of superior and inferior gemelli with obturator internus muscle. Below that, there is obturator fossa, which will give insertion of obturator externus muscle. Remember, obturator externus muscle comes from the outer aspect of the pubis and ischium and obturator membrane. It traverses through the posterior aspect of the neck like this. Now, over the intertrochanteric crest, we know there is a tubercle known as quadrate tubercle. Over the quadrate tubercle, there will be insertion of quadratus femoris muscle. It traverses horizontally. The shape is quadrangular. It extends from the femoral aspect of the ischium to the quadrate tubercle. It lies superficial to the obturator externus muscle. So friends, when we dissect this quadratus femoris muscle, then and then we can see the obturator externus muscle. Now coming to the attachment over the lesser trochanter. At the tip of the lesser trochanter and somewhat anterior aspect of the lesser trochanter, there will be attachment of the psoas major muscle. Just below the psoas major muscle, at the base of the lesser trochanter, we have attachment of the iliacus muscle. So combinedly they are known as iliopsoas muscle. Over the posterior aspect, there will be a bursa. Now let's look at the attachment over the different surfaces of the shaft of the femur. You can see in the anterior surface and the lateral surface, upper 3-4 will give attachment to the vastus intermedialis muscle. Here the attachment is fleshy, while the medial surface does not give attachment to any muscle. Over the popliteal surface also there will be almost no attachment, except medial head of gastrocnemius attaches near the medial supracondylar line, but over the popliteal surface. Now, apart from the vastus intermedialis, just below that, over the anterior surface, there will be attachment of the few slips of the articularis genu muscle. Below that, there will be area for relation of the suprapatellar bursa. Now let's see the attachment of the vastus lateralis. Vastus lateralis attachment starts from the upper part of the intertrochanteric line. Almost from here, it traverses anterior and inferior aspect of the greater trochanter, and then it will extend toward the lateral lip of the linea aspera. It will extend up to the half of the length of the lateral lip of the linea aspera. So this one will be our attachment of the vastus lateralis. It starts from the upper part of the intertrochanteric line, anterior and inferior aspect of the greater trochanter, then upper half of the lateral lip of the linea aspera. Now coming to the attachment of the vastus medialis. It starts from the lower half of the intertrochanteric line. It traverses along the spiral line. Then it will extend toward the medial lip of the linea aspera. It traverses along the whole length of the medial lip of the linea aspera. Then it traverses along the medial supracondylar line. So this one is the larger attachment of the vastus medialis. From that you can understand that vastus medialis and lateralis, both of them have linear attachment, while vastus intermedialis, which attach over the upper 3/4 of the anterior and lateral surface, has fleshy attachment. So remember, vastus intermedialis fleshy attachment, and vastus medialis and vastus lateralis has linear attachment. So these three muscles will form a part of quadriceps femoris. They will join with rectus femoris muscle, which is the muscle of front of thigh, and all four muscles together will form quadriceps femoris. Now I would like to show the muscle of the medial compartment. In the medial compartment we have different muscle. Number 1 pectineus, number 2 adductor longus, number 3 adductor brevis, and number 4 adductor magnus. So in these muscles, they are arranged in different layer. In the first layer we will see pectineus and adductor longus. In the second layer we have adductor brevis muscle, so its length is very small. And in the third layer, that is this one, we have adductor magnus muscle, which is very large. So when we dissect, they will come layer by layer, first layer, second layer and third layer. They all come from the pubis and ischium bone, and they will insert over the linea aspera, which lies over the posterior aspect of the femur. See here. But their attachment will be according to their plane. So as adductor longus and pectineus are in first plane, they will attach most medially in the linea aspera. Then in the second layer we have adductor brevis. It will insert somewhat lateral to the attachment of the adductor longus and pectineus. And lastly, in the third layer we have adductor magnus. So it will insert most laterally in the linea aspera, but in oblique manner, and its length of insertion is highest. Now I would like to show this muscle over the bone. We have discussed pectineus, adductor longus, adductor brevis and adductor magnus. So this one is the lesser trochanter. The attachment of the pectineus lies in between the lesser trochanter and spiral line. So almost here there will be attachment of the pectineus muscle. So this is the insertion. In the same line, below that, along the medial lip of the linea aspera, there will be attachment of the adductor longus. So we have discussed pectineus and adductor longus will be in the first plane. So adductor longus lies lateral to the attachment of vastus medialis, while the pectineus lies below the lesser trochanter and above the spiral line. The next muscle is adductor brevis. Adductor brevis lies lateral to the pectineus and adductor longus, but the length of insertion is very small. The next muscle is adductor magnus. So that is the third layer muscle. It starts inserting from the medial aspect of the gluteal tuberosity. It will traverse along the body of the linea aspera. Then it turns obliquely toward the medial aspect and towards the medial supracondylar line. Ultimately it will reach up to the adductor tubercle. So near the adductor tubercle there will be a gap that is called as hiatus magnus, and that is for popliteal vessels. We will see the same attachment in the diagrammatic manner. You can see here there is attachment of the pectineus in the same line or same plane. Over the medial lip of the linea aspera there is attachment of the adductor longus. So that will be up to the half of the length of the linea aspera. Next to that, that is laterally, there will be attachment of the adductor brevis, which will be only up to the upper 1/4 of the linea aspera. Then next will be attachment of the adductor magnus. So that is the third layer muscle. It extends from the gluteal tuberosity up to the body of the linea aspera, then medial aspect of the linea aspera up to the medial supracondylar line, and then adductor tubercle, leaving a gap that is called as hiatus magnus. Okay. Now you can see here medial to the adductor longus there is one linear attachment, and that is the medial intermuscular septa that lies in between the vastus medialis and adductor longus. So this medial intermuscular septa divides the front compartment from the medial compartment. These are the medial compartment muscle, adductor longus, brevis and magnus, while vastus medialis is the muscle of front. Now, posterior intermuscular septa. Lateral to the adductor magnus, there is attachment of the posterior intramuscular septa. It is again over the lateral aspect of the linea aspera. So that will separate medial compartment from posterior compartment. In the posterior compartment, we have hamstring group of muscle. Apart from the muscle of medial compartment, there is another one muscle that is of hamstring group of muscle, that is the short head of bicep. We have seen the attachment of the adductor magnus, that is from medial aspect of the gluteal tuberosity towards the linea aspera and then medial supracondylar line. Now lateral to that, lateral to this one, here there will be attachment of the short head of bicep, that is in the same line that of the gluteal tuberosity. So remember, it lies lateral to the attachment of the adductor magnus, almost here, and over the gluteal tuberosity there will be attachment of the deep fiber of the gluteus maximus muscle. Remaining fiber of the gluteus maximus muscle will be inserted over the iliotibial tract. Now same thing in the diagrammatic manner. We have seen short head of bicep this way. In the same line in the upper part there will be attachment of the gluteus maximus muscle. Now you can see here, lateral to the attachment of the short head of bicep there will be attachment of lateral intermuscular septa. Now this septa differentiate posterior compartment from the lateral compartment. So lateral to the lateral intermuscular septa there will be attachment of vastus lateralis. So if we see combinedly, there are all three intermuscular septa and muscle. So if we revise them from medial to lateral, first there will be vastus medialis along the line of the linea aspera medial side. Then there will be medial intermuscular septa that will separate the medial compartment from the front compartment. Then in the next plane there will be pectineus and adductor longus. In the next plane there will be adductor brevis. In the next plane there will be adductor magnus extending up to the adductor tubercle. Then next will be posterior intermuscular septa that will separate the medial compartment from the posterior compartment. Then there will be short head of bicep, that is the muscle of posterior compartment. It will join with the long head of bicep. Then there will be lateral intermuscular septa that will separate posterior compartment from the lateral compartment. And then there will be vastus lateralis muscle attachment. Now attachment over the lateral supracondylar line. From below upward there will be attachment of the lateral head of gastrocnemius, and just above that there will be attachment of the plantaris. The remaining part of the popliteal fossa or popliteal surface is covered by fat and fibrofatty tissue, while the medial head of gastrocnemius attach over the popliteal surface but just above the medial condyle. Now let's see the attachment over the lower end of the femur. As we know, this one is the medial condyle and this one is the lateral condyle. Over the lateral condyle there is a prominence known as lateral epicondyle. Just below to that there is a groove known as popliteal groove, which is deeper in the anterior aspect and shallow in the posterior aspect. This lateral epicondyle will give attachment to the fibular collateral ligament of the knee joint, while the popliteal groove in the anterior deep part there will be attachment of the popliteus tendon. Remember, this tendon is intracapsular in origin, while the posterior part is occupied during the flexion position. So in the flexion of the knee joint, popliteus tendon lies in this posterior shallow part. The muscular impression just above the lateral epicondyle there will be attachment of the lateral head of gastrocnemius. Now coming to the medial condyle. Over the medial condyle, the prominence is called as medial epicondyle. Over the medial epicondyle, there will be attachment of the tibial collateral ligament of the knee joint. Just above that, there is a tubercle known as adductor tubercle. From here, there will be passage of epiphyseal line for the lower end. And here, there will be attachment of the hamstring part of the adductor magnus muscle. Now coming to the attachment over the intercondylar area of the femur. Before going into the detail, first we will see some of the ligament of the knee joint. In this figure you can see the knee joint. The articulation of the knee joint is formed by femur in the upper part and the tibia in the lower part. This one is the lateral view. Here you can see crisscross shaped ligament. These are the cruciate ligament. The anterior ligament starts from the anterior part of the tibia and it directs posteriorly upward towards the femur, while the posterior cruciate ligament starts from the posterior part of the tibia, it directs upward towards the femur. Now same thing here we will see. This one is the upper articular surface of the tibia. In the tibia we have medial and lateral condyle. In between them there are intercondylar area. Now you can see here, this one is the attachment of anterior cruciate ligament. So anterior cruciate ligament starts from the anterior part of the intercondylar area, while the posterior cruciate ligament starts from the most posterior part of the intercondylar area. Now we will see their attachment over the femur. So in the femur, this one is the lateral condyle and this one is the medial condyle. As we have seen, anterior cruciate ligament extends from anterior to posterior and below upwards. So anterior cruciate ligament insert over the lateral condyle. Now we will see its attachment over the lateral condyle. It insert over the posterior part of the medial surface of the lateral condyle. You can see here in this way. This is the lateral condyle, this is the medial surface and this is the most posterior part. So this one is the sign of attachment of the anterior cruciate ligament. Now coming to the attachment of the posterior cruciate ligament. As we have seen, posterior cruciate ligament starts from the most posterior part of the intercondylar area of the tibia. It will extend upward but anteriorly. Now we can see from this view attachment of the posterior cruciate ligament. It will attach over the lateral aspect of the medial condyle but in the anterior half. So this is the attachment of the posterior cruciate ligament over the femur. Now intercondylar line here that extends in between the two condyle, it will give attachment to the capsular ligament of the knee joint, and over the lateral aspect there will be attachment of the oblique popliteal ligament. Now anterior border of the intercondylar fossa, it will give attachment to the intrapatellar synovial fold. Let's see the important points for the ossification of this femur bone. In this figure you can see there will be one primary center for the shaft. It will appear in the 7th week of intrauterine life. The other are the secondary centers, one each for head, lesser trochanter, greater trochanter, and the lower end, which includes medial and lateral condyle of the femur. Now here important point to be remembered is that secondary center for the lower end appears before birth, that is the 9th month of the intrauterine life, while the secondary center for the head, lesser and greater trochanter appears after birth at the different stages. Now, another important point is that the secondary center for the head, lesser trochanter and greater trochanter fuses with the shaft at the age of the 19th years of life, while the secondary center for the lower end of the femur fuses with the shaft at the age of 28th year of the life. So now you can say that this lower end appears first and fuses last. So lower end is the growing end of the femur. There is another medico-legal importance for this secondary center is that if the baby found dead after birth, if there is appearance of the secondary center present, we can say the age of the baby is viable. And if there is absence of this secondary center, then we can say the dead baby was not viable for the life. The other noteworthy point for this one is that the neck appears from the primary center. So neck is included within the shaft.